Hi guys, I'm Adam Wilborn from WhatCulture.
And I'm Andy Murray from WhatCulture. And coming up today, we're going to tell you all about Drew McIntyre becoming a two-time WWE champion on last night's Raw. And on top of that, are WWE considering a different opponent, not Randy Orton, for Edge at WrestleMania?
Plus an updated Survivor Series card ahead of this Sunday's pay-per-view and interesting developments around the whole wrestling union thing. This is the news.
And we're going to kick things off by talking about Drew McIntyre, rounding off a tremendous sporting week for the great nation of Scotland. Drew McIntyre is a two-time WWE champion, defeating Randy Orton in the main event of last night's Raw. 25-minute match. They got a good amount of time in this main event slot. Randy Orton, that cheeky little snake, tried to bail on it. He tried to walk away. Champion's advantage. Count out to him. It's technically a loss, but he'd retain the title. Adam Pearce, he's saying no. The bald legend came out and said, listen, Randy Orton, this is now a no DQ, no count out match. So they went back into the ring. They fought a little bit more. A steel chair got involved because weapons. And the match ended when Drew blocked an RKO, hit the Claymore, 1, 2, 3, didn't do his sick count because we missed the count, man. He's a two-time WWE champion, celebrated as the show went off the air. Congratulations to him. Randy's reign ends on 10 days without a single defense. He, of course, took the belt from Drew at Hell in a Cell 2020. He's a 14-time world champion. He's breaking Ric Flair's record, everybody, and it's because of 10-day reigns like this one. Is it 10 days? Maybe I got that wrong. I'm sure the comment section will let me know either way. This, of course, means a change to the Survivor Series card, but you're going to talk about that. I'm not going to talk about that. It's something we actually called on the news video yesterday. You know, I don't think it took a great degree. It didn't take a university degree in nuclear rocket grenades to figure out that this was going to happen. But it has happened. There was no cash in from The Miz. He was fanning around with Mr. Rogers on the undercard. Adam Wilborn, what do you reckon of the title change?
In your words, get on your wee dancer! Is that right?
That's racist. Stop.
But yes, he can boogie. Drew McIntyre is your WWE champion.
You can't say that, you English man.
I've got orange hair. It's fine. I'm halfway there, aren't I? The right decision. I think the moment they teased it on SmackDown, you thought, oh, it's probably going to be Roman versus Drew, because that's actually a match I'd quite like to see, rather than two heels going up against each other and Roman being forced to do his slow, methodical style that Randy Orton does, with the added bonus, as Cedric pointed out, of lots of talking, because that's what happens in Roman Reigns matches nowadays. I think Roman versus Drew is far more entertaining, and like you said, the moment that The Miz got involved with Bray Wyatt, you thought, well, the cashing's not happening tonight then. By the way, shout out to Alexa Bliss and John Morrison. That mad tumbling over the barricade spot is going to stay with me for a long time. But yeah, the right thing to do, and as you say, that sort of leads me on to the updated Survivor Series card. 6 matches and one thing that's going to bloody drag on Sunday. That is The Undertaker's Final Farewell, of course. You've got champion versus champion matches like Roman Reigns, Universal Champion versus now WWE Champion Drew McIntyre, Asuka versus Sasha Banks, The New Day, who retain their championship, and actually a really good match against the Hurt Business last night against the Street Profits. Is Big E going to get involved? I've seen even people suggesting he could turn heel. Please don't turn him heel against the New Day, because that's dumb. And you've got Sami Zayn versus Bobby Lashley, as well as the 2 traditional 5-on-5 elimination matches. Team Raw, who were so crap they lost to Retribution last night. That being AJ Styles, Keith Lee, Sheamus, Braun Strowman and Riddle, but of course with Big George in their corner. And then Team SmackDown, you've got Jey Uso, Kevin Owens, King Corbin, Seth Rollins, and one wrestler to be confirmed or announced or decided, whatever they do on Friday night. The women's match, oh, bloody hell. Team Raw is the woman who went through a table for the 9th week in a row this week. Now level, I believe, according to Michael Hamlet's calculations, with the amount of times that we saw Raw Underground, which is, I suppose, an achievement. Nia Jax, Shayna Baszler, and now no longer Mandy Rose and Dana Brooke. They were both injured on last night's episode of Monday Night Raw. Mandy Rose got her arm stomped by Shayna Baszler. Dana Brooke got attacked by Retaliation, is it? What? Mia Yim in Retribution, basically. And they've been replaced with the team, I refuse to accept their tag team, of Lacey Evans and Peyton Royce, which means Billie Kay's probably going to be put on Team SmackDown because, That is
My
Billy
front
Kay.
door's gone.
I'll let you get that whilst I tell you about
keep
who's on Team
talking.
SmackDown. On Team SmackDown, it is Bianca Belair, Ruby Riott, Liv Morgan, and 2 more wrestlers to be confirmed. One of which I reckon will be. One of them will be Billy Kay, because they're going to try and do an iconic spot, and it's going to break my poor little heart on Sunday. But I'm actually looking forward to the pay-per-view, Andy, aren't you?
I have absolutely no idea what you just said, as I had to take my earpiece out to answer the front door to Adam Cleary's bathroom. However, Survivor Series, I think, looks like a pretty good card. There's no story heading into a lot of these things.
No.
That's the case every single year. So let's get some fun exhibition matches instead. I don't know if the lack of story is necessarily a massive problem either, because WWE storytelling throughout this global bastard hasn't always been great. So I'm kind of looking forward to it, and I think Drew versus Roman is a lot more exciting than Roman versus Randy.
I think the best build you've seen is just Asuka shouting about Sasha Banks on last night's episode of Monday Night Raw. That's all we're getting, basically. It's red versus blue. The more exciting build is Team Raw versus Team SmackDown here at WhatCulture. Me and the Dadley boys versus Phil and Gareth, who are, of course, Team SmackDown. They do the SmackDown review every weekend. And me and Phil, we're doing the live stream on Sunday, so do join us for that one.
To be fair, Asuka shouting at things has been a highlight of the entire global bastard.
Yeah.
Let's move over to Edge. Randy Orton stuff. WrestleMania 37. That was a terrible link. That might be the worst one we've ever done on this channel. But anyway, who's Edge going to face at WrestleMania? Well, seemed to be cut and dry. It seemed like we were heading towards Randy Orton, potentially for the WWE Championship. However, we've got a new report here from WrestleVotes saying that the Edge versus Randy Orton match is still in play for WrestleMania 37. It is still a possibility. However, at the moment, they're discussing the option of Edge versus The Fiend. That's a very interesting pairing. They've never wrestled each other before. Not a whole lot of crossover there with their respective WWE runs and so forth. So it would certainly be fresh. It would be something new, something potentially interesting. However, the Randy Orton thing shouldn't be ruled out entirely. Now, Orton's in an interesting position because, you get the impression that he's racing towards those 17 world title reigns to break Ric Flair and John Cena's record. So there's every possibility he could reclaim the WWE Championship and then still face Edge at WrestleMania 37. But I guess a lot of this depends on Edge's recovery. He said recently that it wasn't going as well as he'd hoped. The torn tricep suffered in the greatest wrestling match ever at Backlash. So, I mean, the guy's 47 years old, right? These things are going to take a lot longer than when he was younger. Certainly hope he does recover in time for WrestleMania, and hopefully before that, because I think it'd be sick to see him in the Royal Rumble again. Either way, a lot of spinning plates at the moment with regards to Edge, Randy Orton, The Fiend. Lots of interesting possibilities. Looking forward to seeing what they do.
I don't really want to be a negative ninny on this one, but I don't want to see Randy Orton versus Edge again. I feel like they peaked with the greatest wrestling match ever with all the bells and whistles that came with that. I don't want Randy Orton to break Ric Flair's record. I'd rather almost anyone break that record rather than Randy Borton. And yeah, I also don't really want to see Edge versus Bray Wyatt, but I do want to see him at WrestleMania 37. So, I don't know, work some out, WWE. You've got, what, half a year? So figure it out. Not my bloody problem, is it? I'll tell you what is someone's problem, and that is a wrestlers' union. We've been talking about this a lot over the last few days, especially off the back of the whole Zelina Vega news. And Spectrum Sports 360's John Alba has actually contacted the president of the Screen Actors Guild, SAG-AFTRA is to give it its full title, Gabrielle Carteris, who gave a really interesting response around how they're going to work to potentially help or develop or include wrestlers in a union. Gabrielle Carter is saying the union will, quote, directly engage with professional wrestlers in order to help them protect themselves. As I said, John Alba contacted her off the back of the whole Zelina Vega stuff. I support unionization, her release around third-party stuff, etc. And anyway, this is the full response that John Alba got. Wrestling is as much about media as it is sports, and we are going to directly engage with members of this profession to help find themselves ways to protect themselves. As more people reinvest in unions and as more working people are harassed by employees who don't want to protect them. Who does that remind me of? SAG-AFTRA is committed to doing what we can to help professional wrestlers secure the protections they deserve. This sounds, whisper it, Andy, promising.
Yeah, it does. It definitely seems like this is building a lot of steam at the moment. There's obviously a lot of barriers to cross, a lot of issues to deal with before this becomes a reality and so forth. But an interesting piece of information that emerged last night from the Twitter account WrestleCritic, talking about Zelina Vega's earnings and so forth, from Twitch and streaming platforms. On Twitch, she had something around about 14,000 followers, thereabouts, subscribers, I should say, all paying a fee. And if those 14,000 or so people even paid like the minimum tier value of the subscription, it would work out at something like $400,000 a year. That's what she was earning on Twitch as a minimum, and that's going to be a low ball because there are, of course, various tiers per month that you can pay for a subscription on Twitch. So perhaps it's not a surprise that she's chosen this over WWE, because you've got to imagine that that's potentially higher than her downside. Either way, unionization, this thing isn't going away, with guys like Andrew Yang as well, talking about how he wanted to try and impose some change if Joe Biden was elected, if he won the election, which he did. Lots of stuff going on. It's going to be very interesting to follow. Could be a potentially fundamental change to the pro wrestling business as we know it.
Yeah, and if you want to know more about this, actually, me and Hamflet sat down to talk about a wrestlers' union on a podcast yesterday. WhatCulture Wrestling, wherever you get your podcast from, iTunes, Spotify, you know the deal. Really interesting to see what Hamflet thinks about this, because he's far more knowledgeable than I am. All it makes me think is we really should set up a WhatCulture OnlyFans. But anyway, let's move on to your Twitter questions at WhatCulture WWE. Of course, first question today comes from Mad Pancakes, who says, with The Undertaker appearing at Survivor Series, surely something big will happen. What if, halfway through Undertaker's promo, The Fiend comes out and attacks him? It gives a nod to a huge dream match and puts the spotlight on Bray. Now, of course, The Undertaker's retired. That's bollocks. What do you reckon to that, Andy?
Yeah, like I always say, man, the Terry Funk rule comes into play whenever a professional wrestler claims they are retiring or going to retire. I could see that. I mean, The Fiend versus The Undertaker is perfectly viable as some kind of weird, messed up cinematic match that you could potentially do at any point without The Undertaker having to take bumps and stuff. So, yes, I can definitely see that happening. Will they have the balls to kind of lay The Undertaker out in his final farewell? Of course they will. They do this.
They literally did this 5 years ago, didn't they? 25th anniversary, whatever it was, Survivor Series. I think the Wyatt family attacked him then.
Exactly, and far be it for WWE to recycle old angles. So, yes, I think it's perfectly viable.
Andy, how do you pronounce the name CEF? Is it Seth?
Let's go with Seth.
Okay, Seth Fracker gives us our second question today, saying, with Miz not cashing in on Raw, do you see a scenario where Miz claims he has a year from when he won the Money in the Bank from Otis to cash in, thus having two Money in the Bank holders at the same time? And I'll add on to that, Andy. When do you think Miz is going to cash in? Because, of course, it's 10 years since his cash in on Sunday.
Yes, it most certainly is. I think he's going to cash in soon, or attempt to cash in soon, but I think he's going to fail. I think he's going to get the Jinder treatment. The Baron Corbin treatment. He got pinned by Jinder. Got it the wrong way around. Yeah, I think he's going to lose it in a banana peel type thing. I don't see them going the distance and doing like two Money in the Bank briefcase holders. That sounds a little bit too convoluted even for this creative team.
Yeah, but in kayfabe, like you say, if you're going to cash in when Drew McIntyre, who's a hard bastard, faces the tribal chief. I think if it's going to happen, it may well happen this Sunday. Whether or not he's successful. Final question today comes from Brandon, who sends us a picture of Doug. He says Doug is a big fan. He also loved the snow. First of all, good boy Doug. And second of all, Brandon's question is, what are the chances Lana is going to be the sole survivor for her Survivor Series team?
I would kind of like that, but only if... early on, Lana could be put through the table by Nia Jax, her own teammate, take her out of the whole match, and then, someone from SmackDown could think they've won it, that the last person standing, Lana, comes in for the roll-up. It would make a complete mockery of the whole thing, but you know what? Why the hell not?
That's exactly what's going to happen. You've nailed it there, Andy. And then WWE are going to be like, well, guess Lana's over. Nope, she just got put through a table for 9 weeks straight. That's all that happened. Anyway, let's move on to today's and finally. And yeah, thanks to everyone who sent us this. We didn't miss it. Eddie Kingston tweeting our very own Simon Miller. Basically, if you don't know the backstory to this, I believe Miller has been talking about how Kingston wrestles and cuts promos like he doesn't realise elements of this business, a bit of a work. And Eddie Kingston responded to Simon Miller saying that by atting him, saying, at Simon Miller 316, wrestling and what I do is real. Okay, Eddie, we love you here at WhatCulture. Please don't hurt us, and especially don't hurt Simon Miller. Although, Andy, that is a match I would pay to see.
Yeah, that would be a lot of fun, man. That'd be a lot of fun. Eddie Kingston is the most believable pro wrestler on the planet. There's not a single person I buy into more as soon as they spit their first syllable or throw their first chop or punch than Eddie Kingston. He blurs the lines, and that's the whole point of the pro wrestling business, isn't it? So shout out to Eddie Kingston. In these hallowed halls of Adam Cleary's bathroom, I don't think I've ever heard a single word about Eddie Kingston that wasn't just effusive praise. We love the guy, he's awesome.
Yeah, exactly. Although I will say my mother's eyes are more beautiful than your mother's eyes, Eddie Kingston. I'm joking. Please don't hurt me. Right, let's wrap up quickly. Let us know your thoughts on that and all of today's news stories in the comments section below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And subscribe to What Culture Wrestling on either iTunes, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts from, for daily wrestling podcast, that podcast about wrestling unions I mentioned, and the Raw review with myself and the Daddy Boys later on today. Plus, you can let us know your thoughts on Twitter questions, and I don't know, grass is up to wrestlers on Twitter at WhatCulture WWE. Watch there, follow both of us. You can follow Andy Murray at Andy H. Murray. The H stands for Happy Birthday Mako Satomura, coming soon to an NXT UK near you. I know Adam Nicholas is very, very happy about that. Follow me on Twitter at Adam Wilbur. Follow us all at WhatCulture WWE. But for now, my thanks to Andy Murray for being incredibly professional with people invading his bathroom during today's news. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you soon. Imagine walking into a bathroom, man.